So Tshidi, thank you very much for making time to share your insights into the future of leadership. But before we walk into the future, can you tell us a little bit about your own background? Where did you grow up?
Thanks, Dr. Nick, for this opportunity. Dr. Nick, I'm from Polokwane in the Limpopo province, but I was actually born in Chris Hani Baragwanath Hospital because my maternal grandmother lived in Soweto, and my mother always had to leave her marital home in Limpopo to be with her own mother whenever she gave birth. So, but growing up, I actually grew up in a village called Ramashashane. It's a village next to Polokwane. And I grew up in a big united family of close-knit cousins, uncles, and aunts, and to date we're still very strong hold as a family. From Ramashashane, we moved to a township called Seshoro for a short time, and during my high school days, my mom decided to upgrade us and bought a house in the beautiful city of Polokwane. And I think that is where I would say I grew up, and that is where my mom still lives. So I'm a proud Limpopo girl.
Right. And tell us, Tshidi, what was your dream career when you grew up?
Sure. I'll be revealing my age here because it's so long, right? But I think all I could remember, Dr. Nick, is in my younger days, I wanted to be educated. I wanted to be famous. I wanted to be powerful. You know, I just wanted to be an influential being. I guess one thing is I just did not want to be ordinary. But in my teens, when you now have to choose subjects for school, Dr. Nick, I think I was fascinated by psychology and law. And in retrospect, I think law merely because most of my family members will be saying, oh, Tshidi and her million questions, she can be such a good lawyer. But I think psychology, because of, you know, I always thought, wow, psychologists, they'll be able to get into people's minds and figure out why people behave in a particular way. So I think those were the two. So at university, I actually did my junior degree in industrial psychology. And then I did my advanced diploma in labor law. And eventually I did my master's in business and executive coaching. And why I mentioned this is, so I feel through my studies and my work experience in human resources, I've managed to successfully combine my two initial, you know, childhood aspirations of psychology and labor law. So yeah, so that's just in a nutshell in terms of my dream career growing up.
And Tshidi, tell us who inspired you in your early days?
Wow, Dr. Nick, I'm such a lover of this thing called life, right? And I'm easily inspired, you know, by the beauty of life and by the ordinary people who know what they want in life and they're willing to actually work hard and, you know, reach their dreams, reach their goal against all odds. But closer to home, I think I would say I live by the quote that says, you know, I thought of quitting, but then I noticed who's watching. So even if I would want to quit, I think I get my inspiration from my kids. I've got 3 kids because I know they are watching. I also have, you know, dearest supportive husband who's my greatest cheerleader, and he inspires me and supports me to reach those stars. However, I think growing up, Dr. Nick, I can, you know, also give credit where it's due. I can give credit to my mom, who has been a greater part of my life and, you know, my sister's lives growing up. As a single mother, she remains my total inspiration. And I think she instilled 3 principles that I continue to live by even today. The first one being, if you really want it, you will get it, which means, you know, if you put your mind to something, you will definitely get it. I mean, despite having to raise me and my sister single-handedly as a divorcee, you know, she managed herself to get the highest academic medal through a PhD. So that's the first one that I think I would say I've learned from her. Secondly, just the power of, you know, and the importance of being educated. You know, when growing up, my mom talked mostly about the importance of education and the liberation that comes through, being educated. And also just by being an expert in whatever field that you choose. And I think it's not surprising that for now, 2 of her kids, me and my elder sister are currently both enrolled for our PhDs, although with different institutions. So I think that would be the second one. And I think the third inspiration that she instilled in me was having a global view to life. I mean, my mom did her master's in Toronto, Canada, and she was there for 3 years. And I think that international experience opened my eyes at a very young age to the world outside South Africa. So that is why it was never an issue for me. First of all, my husband is not South African. When I married a non-South African, that was not an issue in my family. But I think even from a young age, it opened to the world that, there is a bigger world out there from South Africa. And I think even now I actually look out for roles that will expose me to a world outside South Africa. So I think that would be, some of the 3 lessons that I've learned from here.
And Tshidi, today you are the HR director at one of the top metals companies and minerals companies. Looking back over your career, would you say there was a turning point, or maybe a number of turning points?
Yeah, there were. I mean, we are minerals. We are in the engineering sector. But Dr. Nick, you know what, let me maybe even start from the beginning in terms of, and this is what defined my career, right? And it set the baseline, it set the foundation. And the first turning point helped me to raise above my mistakes and focus, right? And this was my first year at university, and I became pregnant. So I had a child first year at university, which is the moment where I would say actually led me to rise a personal disappointment, to focus and reclaim my life, right? I mean, seeing the disappointment in my mom's eyes after, telling her that I'm pregnant during my first year, I vowed that I will work hard and will not burden her, with my son's school fees and other things. Therefore, I did not have time to waste at university. And I think that focus that I had at that young age helped me a lot. And I think I would say the second one, which really taught me how to manage, the ever-existing, is always there, unconscious bias. And I actually learned to appreciate and understand that we all have biases. And that made me a true ambassador today of intentional inclusion and diversity. And I'm one person who goes out of my way to actually know, include, and appreciate others who are not necessarily like me. And this turning point was, when I was appointed as a CCMA commissioner, I mean, it was at the young age of 26.
Okay.
And, I grew up in a family where I was told, by my uncles, by my mom, by my sister, that I can be anything that I can be in the world. Therefore, going through the application processes and the rigorous CCMA training, commissioner training, I did not, think anything of my age. However, when I started working, I actually realized that, there is a harsh world of unconscious bias, from ordinary people, and it was from all races and genders, right? And this was because of my age and my small stature, and I was always subjected, before we could start a hearing, with, full inquiry on questions in terms of my academic qualification, and when did I actually go through the training. And I learned over time that instead of being angry, I would gladly answer every question, right? Knowing very well that it comes from a point of their discomfort. And it was my job to actually educate them that I'm fully and equally capable and qualified to preside over these matters, despite the fact that I was 26. And this helped me to understand early in my career that because of my age, where I finished university at 19 and started working at 20, and so I came into management roles at a very young age, that I will likely hold the privilege of being the first youngest person in certain roles that I would hold. So I vowed to consciously carry the responsibility of representing with pride and excellence, the other younger Tshidis that will come after me. So I think I would say that was my, second turning point in terms of my career. And I think the third one was just being exposed to an international career, which broadened my worldview. Whilst working for Sasol, I had a 4-year international stint to Lagos, Nigeria, a city that today I hold, it's one of my favorite cities. And I think, I was there as the 8th country HR head, and it just opened my eyes to the world of outside South Africa, where, as of now, I was on the other side of the fence, right, where head office is in South Africa, and they sometimes want to impose certain rules and processes, South African based into Nigeria. And I would always say, but we still have to think locally. Yes, we do have the appreciation of the global head office, which is somewhere else. So I think that experience, it helps me so much now to commit and understand, now managing 2 continents, Africa and Middle East, and to appreciate, colleagues that are in other countries. So that's I think that's the third turning point. And I think the fourth turning point, and this is the last one, you can see that it's many, but the last turning point was graduating with a master's degree in business and executive coaching from Wits Business School. And this was, for me, my best personal development initiative that I forever appreciate, because it allowed me to start practicing as an executive coach, and that opened my eyes to the power of just helping and unleashing others' true potential, both in their personal and career life. So I think those, long story, but yeah, those are my turning points, Dr. Dick.
So Tshidi, what would you say is driving you today?
Wow. You know what? The desire to be the best version of myself, where I continuously just integrate the most important aspects of my life. And I say I integrate because I believe that it's not about the balance, but about bringing all these meaningful parts of my life together. For example, I love my job so much, and I give everything in terms of work. But I'm also a doctorate student, right? So I'm busy pushing my PhD at GIBS, and I try by all means to be best in terms of my studies, because it's a personal goal that I have. I try by all means to be involved in terms of my kids' education. I'm a class mom for my kids. I do get involved in terms of, the PTF chairperson, the Parents Teacher Forum chairperson at my kids' school. So I think just the desire to be the best version of myself, and putting all these aspects of my life and actually saying they're all important. I do want to be to have a PhD. I'm unapologetic about my career, and I'm a mother as well. So I think just the desire to be the best version of myself. And I think the second one, I desire to inspire positive outlook in others, Dr. Nick. And I think in terms of my career in HR, I do that. I always hear people say they are leaving corporate to follow their passion and dreams, but I actually believe that I'm living my dream and passion in HR, because I am able to live that passion, and I can inspire positive outlook in others. So I think that's that. And just being an executive coach, it has really helped me, when I speak to fellow executives, whether they're transitioning from one role to the other, or it's women being developed for senior roles. So I think those are the things that I look at now, that really my desire to influence just a positive outlook drives me. And I think the last one would be, I really want to be a campus of moral, ethical, and servant leadership. I try by all means to be a caring, kind-hearted, highly principled leader, where I don't mind putting, the needs of others first. For me, the world needs leaders who are full of kindness. And I think sometimes the mistake that we do is that we confuse kindness with mediocrity, or with something that shouldn't leaders have. So I think those are the things that that drives me today, Dr. Lee.
And Tshidi, looking into the future, and I know it's a big question, but what does the future of leadership mean to you?
Yeah. You know, for me, it means less focus on the old ways of doing things, right? Of power and control, where the leader was the one who's supposed to know everything. I think the current and future world requires really highly skilled leaders who are able to understand the demands of the increasingly, flexible, fast-moving, connected, informed world. So we need leaders that are able to act with flexibility and agility, but they still are able to inspire and motivate a vision that can move others. And I think lastly, leaders who are self-aware, have empathy, and are able to co-create by seeking to understand from others and by having those meaningful conversations with others.
So Tshidi, what would you say is it we have to do, and we have to do more of, in order to develop future leaders, empower future leaders, and really inspire future leaders?
Yeah, I think what we can do, and this is maybe what I would say we future leaders actually need, right? And I liked it the other time when I was speaking to you, before we started, you talked about motivational intelligence, but I think we need to be intentional about understanding that leadership is something that can be taught, right? It's an art that can be taught, and what we need to do, we need to build experiences that you can get it through experiences. That means putting you, in the heat, in that water, and then you can swim along. Secondly, we need to be intentional about programs that, dedicated programs for this leaders to actually learn the art of this of leadership. So I think we just need to put it's the experience and the training programs that I think we need to put future leaders into. So I think that's what I think we need to do. Put them let them experience this, and then second is that let's be intentional in terms of the programs that we can put them through.
And Tshidi, when you speak to aspiring leaders and maybe your own children, what do you tell them about social media? How should they navigate social media to build their own leadership brand?
And I think that's very important, Dr. Nick. I think aspiring leaders, or everyone else for that matter, be conscious of the power of social media. Do not underplay it. There is power. I personally find LinkedIn valuable and important in terms of professional and personal branding, and where I can be in touch with like-minded professionals. And I think that's the power that for me that I find in LinkedIn is that I am able to be in touch with like-minded professionals where I can also spot and identify talent. I think from an HR professional, and going into LinkedIn, yes, it's for my own personal experience, and I can learn from others, but I'm also spotting and identifying future talent probably for our company. And I've also noticed that in this day and age, people would want to follow a leader that they somewhat understand. So social media provides that opportunity for people to know some parts of you without having met you in person.
Right. Now, Tshidi, what is your advice for future leaders in terms of challenges? These are challenging times, and what would you say to future leaders? What are some of the biggest challenges they should expect to encounter in their career?
Yeah, and I mean, I'll just sound like a broken record, right? But I think the rise of the digitally connected world will be the greatest challenge for all of us. I think as the world continues to move and face, the ever increasing, environmental threats of global warming, pollution, climate change, the high expectations for ethical practices, cybercrime, that are demonstrated in the business world, right? All of these forces are pulling or they're pushing a particular shift or a direction in social values as a whole. So I think for me, that is what I would say that would be the greatest challenge of leaders, of just pulling it all together and actually looking at it, and sometimes even just paving a vision that you are also not very clear about, but yet as a visionary leader, you need to create that vision, that compelling vision that will allow others to follow.
And Tshidi, if you were to design a curriculum for future leaders, what are some of the new skills you would want to factor in?
I think the first one I would put, emotional intelligence, right, as module number 1, because I think leaders, that can empathize, that can lead with a human touch, whilst at the same time inspiring confidence from their team, and those ones that can influence during uncertain times, and can be able to create inspiration and hope. That would be module number 1. I would say module number 2 is technological intelligence, some sort of tech-savvy leaders who can understand how to exploit these technologies in a way that can leverage some business success. Third module will be cultural intelligence, ability to understand the interconnectedness of the world, being able to work across different cultures, borders, languages, and I think the fourth one would be adaptive thinking. We need leaders that can come up with creative and innovative ideas. I always say it's no longer about the out-of-the-box thinking. So now we must think that the box is not even there, right? And I think the last module will be agility and flexibility. The ability, just to convert the changes that come with this ever-changing world that we see into opportunities. And be flexible enough to quickly shift focus and train your thoughts, from one concept to the other. So I think those are the 5 modules that I would introduce.
Thank you. And Tshidi, as a mentor to future leaders, can you maybe share a success story or 2 where you mentored an upcoming leader and that person took your advice to heart?
So I'll talk about mentoring, but because I'm a coach as well, and I started coaching in 2015, I think I've coached, professionally about 100 clients, mostly in corporate, and my niche being high potential women in leaders. And I think it is just amazing, right, in the world of work, where there's just so much clarity that is needed to help those individuals navigate through their corporate through a corporate maze, where there's a GPS signal helping them and as an accountability partner. But in terms of mentorship, I do a lot of mentorship, especially in the HR field, where I mentor, other HR professionals through the struggles and the joys of being a powerful, influential, business-focused HR professional. So one particular example that comes to mind is my younger sister, Tsepo, who is also a remarkable HR professional, and she's currently a senior HR business partner. And I always say I love HR so much, and I don't mind to always recruit other professionals, to come and experience the world of HR. And whenever I speak to youngsters, I remind them that, there is a fulfilling and rewarding career. They must choose, if they want that, they must choose a career in HR. So I guess my younger sister, fell for my HR sales pitch. I think she's someone who I walked the HR journey with from her first job. And she will always tell me that she has learned the power and the influencing role that HR can actually play in designing the culture of an organization through a sister mentoring relationship that I have with her. And I also have a youngster, Lerato Molefe, from the 1st of November. She's even joining it. She'll be going to Discovery. And it's someone as well that I've seen her grow, from her being an HR administrator, and now she's going into a senior HR business partner role. So those are the 2 people that I can think of just in terms of mentoring.
And Tshidi, looking back over your learning, over your leadership journey, and maybe your learning journey, who are the kind of role models, leadership role models that future leaders should learn from?
Yeah, I mean, I'm an avid reader of leadership, and I take my cue and notes from lots of leaders. But I'm also a fan of John Maxwell, you know, to an extent that in 2017, I actually went for his certification program in Florida, USA. So I'm actually a certified and accredited John Maxwell trainer, speaker, and coach. However, from a local front, I mean, I have leaders that I admire from a distance and who I'm glad they have also shared their career stories, you know, by authoring books, by writing books that some of us can learn from. And those are leaders like, you know, Nolita Fakude, Mteto Nyati, and Bonang Mohale. So those are the leaders that, you know, from a distance I watch. I'm also a product of many other leaders, you know, particularly in the HR space. And, you know, one that is you know, I would say very close to heart. I was actually reporting under him. He stretched me beyond my capabilities, you know, he pushed me hard to deliver. You know, and also to think that the box is not there. So just think, and this is Edwin Shachwayo, who is currently the chief people officer at Glencoe. I reported to him when I was at Sasol, but I also have the leaders whom I worked under, and I emulate, you know, some of their toughness and some of their creativities, and these are leaders like Snem Kize, who I worked under at Sasol, who's currently the CHRO at Tiger Brands. And I also just make sure that I surround myself with them, you know, like-minded people within the professional circles. And another thing is that, Dr. Nick, so as a doctorate student, my research is focused on career decisions of Black female executives. So I have interviewed some of the most powerful Black female executives in the last few months. And unfortunately, due to confidentiality, I can't mention their names, but they are all my role models. In their journeys, I have found, you know, very inspirational nuggets that I can learn from. So I think those would be my role models, Dr. Nick.
Thank you. And Tshidi, how can our listeners connect with you, and where should they follow you?
So where the listeners can, you know, connect with me, I'm on LinkedIn, I'm on Facebook. Yeah, you know, my son once put my details on Instagram, but that was the last time I think maybe I went there. But I think LinkedIn and I do on Facebook as well.
And last but not least, Tshidi, what is your message to the millions of kids out there who are looking to leave school, looking to enter the world of work, and who are now considering which career to follow? What would you tell them? Where should they start?
Yeah, I would say, you know, first of all, is that, you know, your career is in your hands. You know, and everyone has the capacity to grow and develop their skills. Therefore, you need to have a growth mindset. That would be, you know, the first, I think, takeaway. And from a personal perspective, Dr. Nick, I would say, you know, we need to be the masters of our own destination, right? We need to take control of our lives and be the authors of our own life stories. So it's actually great to have the end in mind, and that end in mind in terms of your career, in terms of the leader that you want to be, you know, just that living by design and not by default. And from a leadership perspective, I think one takeaway would be we should always remember that everyone has a diamond, you know, within, and the role of a leader is to let everyone's diamond shine. So I think I would say those would be my takeaways.
Well, Tshidi, thank you so much for sharing your insights and your wisdom into the future of leadership and showing us the way, inspiring us, and really being a role model yourself.
Thank you. Thank you for this opportunity, Dr. Nick. Truly appreciate. Thank you.
You're welcome.